Imagine this for just a moment. Every single thought that passes through your mind, every flicker of imagination, every worry, every dream, might not be vanishing into nothingness as you believe, but instead branching into countless realities, spinning off into entire universes where those thoughts become the very fabric of existence. What if, right now, another version of you is waking up in a different timeline because you thought about it? You see, most people drift through life with the casual assumption that their thoughts are private and visible, and mostly harmless. But what if the truth is stranger? What if your mind is not just an observer of the universe, but an architect of many? This idea that thoughts may actually generate realities is both exhilarating and disorienting. It forces you to pause, even as you lie here in the quiet of your room, drifting between wakefulness and sleep, and ask, what am I creating right now, simply by thinking about it? Pause with that thought for a moment, because tonight, in this long, deep journey of listening, we're going to explore one of the most mysterious, mind-bending questions of all time. What if your thoughts are creating parallel universes right now? Subscribe Mind Reality Mysteries before we deep dive into the realm of mind consciousness. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The water stretches endlessly beyond the horizon, shimmering under starlight. You toss a single stone into the waves, and ripples spread outward, not just one, not just two, but infinitely in all directions, touching every shore that exists. In this metaphor, your stone is a thought, your mind is the hand casting it, and those ripples are the alternate realities set into motion by the act of thinking. This is not just poetry. Across history, sages, philosophers, and scientists have whispered versions of this same possibility. In ancient Vedic texts, the Upanishads describe the mind as the loom upon which the universe is woven. In early Greek philosophy, Anaxagoras suggested that mind is infinite and self-ruled, shaping cosmos from chaos. And in the 20th century, quantum physicists like Hugh Everett dared to propose that every possible outcome doesn't just might exist. It does exist in parallel universes. Think of that. Every fork in your life, every choice you made, every choice you did not make, might already be alive somewhere. The version of you who said yes instead of no. The version of you who stayed instead of leaving. The version of you who dreamed something wild and impossible and lived it. As you settle deeper into the rhythm of my voice, allow yourself to feel the weight of this possibility. It's not a heavy weight, more like a blanket, draped across your awareness, comforting, curious, mysterious. Because if your thoughts truly ripple outward into universes, then your life is more expansive, more powerful, more infinite than you've ever been told. But let's make this even more personal. Imagine you're sitting quietly in your favorite chair, eyes closed, daydreaming. For just a moment, you picture yourself flying, not in an airplane, but with your own body, soaring effortlessly above the earth. Most people would say, that's just imagination. But what if somewhere, right now, another you actually is flying? That daydream, that casual thought, branched into a universe where gravity bends differently, where your body evolved wings, where the impossible became the ordinary. And if that's true for such fantastical scenarios, what about the simple ones? The thought of calling a friend, the worry about a lost opportunity, the flash of inspiration that feels almost too random. Each could be the seed of a universe that grows around it, as real as the one you feel beneath your fingertips now. This is where things get beautifully disorienting. Because if every thought creates, then nothing is wasted. No dream is merely a dream. No imagination is trivial. You, lying here, listening, breathing softly, might be the center of countless expanding realities. Pause again, let yourself feel that. not with logic, not with analysis, but with the quiet wonder of a child looking at stars for the very first time. Now, before you dismiss this as fantasy, let me share a few peculiar facts. In 1957, Dr. Hugh Everett Dether, a physicist at Princeton, introduced what is now called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Instead of a single universe with a single path, Everett suggested that all possible outcomes of quantum measurements actually happen. Every split, every tiny decision at the quantum level generates a branching universe. At the time, his peers scoffed. The idea was too radical, but today, his interpretation is taken seriously by physicists at universities across the world, from MIT to Oxford to the Max Planck Institute. Think about that. A legitimate, mathematically supported theory suggesting that reality itself branches endlessly. Now layer this with something else. Neuroscience research shows that the brain generates tens of thousands of thoughts per day. If even a fraction of these ripple outward into quantum branching, then each of us may be fountains of universes, constantly bubbling realities into existence with nothing more than imagination. It's not just science fiction. It's a frontier of science itself. Let's weave in another story. Picture yourself as a young child, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. You imagine monsters hiding in the closet. You imagine being a superhero saving the world. You imagine growing up to travel to other planets. At the time, these felt like fantasies, private and fleeting. But what if they weren't? What if those childhood dreams became blueprints for entire timelines, now alive, where you, another you, lives them fully? The idea sounds almost too much, but notice how your body feels as you consider it. There's a strange relaxation in surrendering to possibility, a softening in the chest, a gentle letting go of certainty. And as you listen, as you breathe, you begin to realize that the boundaries of what is real and imagined are not as rigid as you once thought. And here's another fascinating twist. In 2007, researchers at the University of Toronto, led by psychologist Dr. Daniel Wegner, studied the illusion of conscious will, the idea that what we think is a choice may not actually be one. Experiments revealed that many of our thoughts arise before we're aware of them. Consciousness may not be generating thoughts, it may be receiving them. But if that's true, then where are they coming from? Could it be that they are whispers from those parallel universes, drifting into your awareness from realities you are simultaneously living? Just imagine that the dream you had last night wasn't merely random brain chemistry, but a bleed through a flicker from another timeline, a glimpse into a universe your thoughts already created. This is the mystery we'll explore tonight. As you drift deeper, chapter by chapter, we'll wander through ancient wisdom traditions, where sages spoke of infinite worlds long before modern physics. We'll look at scientific foundations, experiments, and researchers who dared to test the unthinkable. We'll travel through documented cases of strange coincidences, déjà vu, and parallel life experiences. We'll enter the quantum realm, where particles themselves seem to flicker between realities. We'll explore consciousness research that suggests the mind is far vaster than the brain. We'll uncover hidden evidence, modern discoveries, and imagine the future implications of living in a multiverse of our own making. And finally, we'll gently integrate these mysteries into a conclusion that leaves you expansive, calm, and ready to drift into deep, restful sleep. All of this begins with a single thought right now in your mind. So as you continue to listen, allow yourself to relax more deeply into this moment. Feel your breath slowing, your body softening into the bed, your awareness expanding gently outward. The mystery is already unfolding. The universes are already branching, and you are at the center, curious, awake yet sleepy. listening as the secrets of the cosmos drift to you like a lullaby, because after all, if your thoughts are creating parallel universes right now, then this very thought, this very moment, might be the birth of another world. Imagine for a moment that the thoughts in your mind are not fleeting shadows, not silent whispers locked inside your skull, but real forces shaping the world itself. Imagine that long before science, long before laboratories and quantum equations, ancient civilizations already intuited that what you think becomes what you live. This is not a new idea. In fact, some of the earliest writings in human history speak of the creative power of thought. The Vedas of India, written perhaps over 3,000 years ago, describe consciousness as the ground of reality, a vast ocean in which worlds appear like ripples. The Upanishads say, "You are what your deep. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny." Doesn't that sound eerily like the idea that your inner world creates outer universes? Pause and let that echo through your mind. In ancient Egypt, the priests of Heliopolis taught that the god Ptah created the world not with hands, but with his heart and his tongue. To them, thought and word were the tools of creation. To think something was to bring it into being. That myth may seem symbolic, but perhaps it carries a scientific seed. That intention itself is a force, a vibration echoing into matter. Across the seas, in the philosophies of ancient Greece, the same truth whispers. Plato, in his dialogues, spoke of a higher realm of forms perfect, invisible templates that shape the physical world. The chair you sit on is only a shadow of the chair, ness, that exists in the realm of ideas. And what are ideas if not thoughts? To Plato, reality itself was downstream of mind. Later, Plotinus in the 3rd century described the One, an infinite source from which all universes emanate like rays from the sun. Again, thought, pure consciousness, stands as the origin. Even the Stoic philosophers, often seen as practical and grounded, held that logos, the rational principle of the cosmos, was a kind of living mind pervading everything. They believed that when you aligned your thoughts with the logos, you participated in the very fabric of universal creation. Let's move further east. In Taoist China, Laozi wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "The Tao gave birth to the One gave birth to two, the two gave birth to three, the three gave birth to all things." Here again, the universe is born not from material, but from a mysterious principle, unseen yet ever present. Taoist masters practiced inner alchemy, visualizing energy moving through their bodies, believing these inner images had power to transform reality. When you visualize a flowing stream of qi, you shape the way energy manifests, not just inside but outside. And in Buddhism, particularly the Yogacara school, reality itself is described as citamatra, mind only. The external world is seen as projections of the collective mind stream. Think of a dream. When you sleep, your thoughts create entire worlds, landscapes, people, dramas. Who is to say that waking life is not the same on a larger scale? Here's a story to bring this alive. Imagine a monk meditating in a Himalayan cave centuries ago. Snow falls outside, silence fills the air. He closes his eyes and visualizes a golden lotus blooming in his heart. He holds the image breath by breath until the lotus feels more real than stone, more real than snow. Later, when travelers pass, they find the cave filled with the scent of flowers, though none grow nearby. Was this imagination, or did his thought weave threads into reality itself? In Native American traditions, the Lakota people speak of Wakan Tanka, the great mystery. It is said that every thought, every prayer, travels like smoke into the sky world, shaping the unseen. To speak or think is not casual. It is a sacred act of creation. Similarly, the Aboriginal people of Australia describe the dream time, where ancestral beings sang the world into existence. The songlines are not metaphors. They are believed to be literal paths of creation, maintained through ritual and thought. To walk a songline is to keep reality alive. Pause here, imagine the resonance. Thousands of miles apart, cultures that never met told stories with the same hidden truth. Thought creates reality. Could it be coincidence? Or could they all be tuning into the same universal law, glimpsed through vision, meditation, and myth? But let's move closer in time. During the Renaissance, Hermetic philosophers repeated the phrase, "As above, so below. As within, so without." They believed the human mind mirrored the cosmos, and that inner change rippled outward. Paracelsus, the Swiss physician, taught that imagination was not fantasy, but a subtle power that could heal or harm. He wrote, "The spirit is the master, imagination the tool, and the body the servant." To him, thought was medicine or poison. Even in Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah speaks of creation beginning with a divine thought, descending through 10 spheres of emanation until it solidifies into our world. The Zohar suggests that when a person meditates on sacred letters, they participate in this creative process. Each thought aligns with a hidden branch of reality. Now let's blend storytelling with your own experience. Picture yourself at night lying down as you are now. You close your eyes and you remember a difficult moment in your life. You replay it in your mind again and again. Notice how your body tenses, how your heartbeat quickens. Even though the event is long past, the thought has power. Now imagine a different moment. You picture yourself laughing or holding someone you love. Instantly your body relaxes. The thought creates chemistry. The chemistry creates reality. If a single thought can change your inner world so vividly, what if entire universes respond in kind? But what do these ancient voices imply for our modern question? If every culture whispered that thoughts create worlds, could they have intuited what physics is only now beginning to measure? Perhaps their myths and meditations were early maps of the multiverse, encoded in story and ritual. Think of it this way: if parallel universes exist, and if thoughts have power, then ancient practices were not just symbolic, they were exercises in universe weaving. A mantra, a prayer, a visualization. Each may have been a method to steer which branch of reality the practitioner entered. Let's deepen this with one more story. In medieval Japan, Zen monks practiced koan meditation, paradoxical riddles meant to break the logical mind. One famous koan asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" For hours, days, monks held the unanswerable question until their sense of self dissolved. And in that dissolution, many reported visions of infinite worlds, infinite selves. They glimpsed, perhaps, what modern physics calls superpositions, countless realities existing at once, awaiting collapse by awareness. You, too, have tasted this. Have you ever had a dream so vivid you woke with the memory of another life? A dream where you were someone else, somewhere else, yet it felt utterly real. What if that was not just a dream, but a peek into a parallel universe birthed by thought itself? So, what do we make of all this? From Vedic seers to Taoist sages, from Egyptian priests to native storytellers, from Hermetic alchemists to Zen masters, the message is consistent: reality is mental before it is material. Consciousness is not inside the universe is inside consciousness. And if that's true, then your thoughts tonight may not only shape tomorrow, they may be streaming outward into an infinite sea, each ripple a universe, each emotion a dimension. As you breathe slowly, as your body sinks deeper into rest, consider this: the ancients were not speaking in riddles. They were describing what science is only now rediscovering, that the mind is not a prisoner of matter. It is the key to countless worlds. And so, as you drift with these ancient echoes, remember this truth: The story of thought shaping worlds is not just a myth to be admired from a distance. It is a living possibility, waiting in the silence of your own mind. Every breath, every vision, every subtle intention you hold might be painting the canvas of unseen universes. Perhaps tonight, as you listen and dream, you are not only falling asleep, you are also creating. Imagine a quiet laboratory late at night, the faint hum of equipment, the smell of metal and ozone, the glow of green and red indicator lights blinking steadily in the shadows. A scientist leans close to an electron microscope, adjusting the focus with delicate fingers, and suddenly the familiar picture of matter begins to dissolve. At this scale, objects no longer seem solid, no longer behave as little billiard balls colliding in empty space. Instead, they appear as shimmering clouds of probability, as if the universe itself is undecided waiting. The scientist blinks, realizing something profound. Reality is not fixed. Reality is fluid. And somehow, in ways not yet understood, thought seems to play a role in shaping what will come next. The scientific foundation for this idea stretches across centuries. It did not appear overnight, nor did it arrive fully formed. It began with questions, with paradoxes, with thinkers daring to wonder if mind and matter are not separate but intertwined. Step back for a moment to the 17th century. The philosopher and mathematician René Descartes famously declared, "Cogito, ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. With those words, he separated the world of thought from the world of matter. He believed in dualism. The mind and the body were different kinds of substance. Yet in drawing that line, he also elevated thought as the one undeniable truth. You could doubt the world around you. You could doubt your senses, but you could not doubt the fact that you were thinking. Thought was the foundation of existence. Only a few decades later, in 1687, Isaac Newton unveiled his philosophy Naturalis Principia Mathematica. His equations described a universe of order and certainty. Matter moved according to precise laws. Planets circled the sun. Objects fell with predictable acceleration. The universe was like a clockwork mechanism, wound by some distant hand. For nearly 2 centuries, this mechanical vision dominated science. Reality was material, external, and entirely independent of the observer. But at the dawn of the 20th century, cracks began to appear in Newton's machine. In 1905, Albert Einstein revolutionized physics with his theory of special relativity. Suddenly, space and time were no longer fixed. They bent and stretched depending on motion. A decade later, with his general theory of relativity, Einstein showed that matter itself warps space-time. The universe was not a rigid machine after all. It was flexible, dynamic, responsive. And while Einstein bent the vast scales of the cosmos, another revolution unfolded on the smallest scales. In 1900, Max Planck introduced the concept of quanta, discrete packets of energy. 5 years later, Einstein used this concept to explain the photoelectric effect, showing that light can behave like a particle. Then came Niels Bohr, who in 1913 proposed his model of the atom, and later Werner Heisenberg, who in 1927 developed the uncertainty principle. The deeper scientists looked, the stranger reality became. Consider the double-slit experiment, first performed with light by Thomas Young in 1801. It showed interference patterns that proved light was a wave. But when the experiment was revisited in the 20th century with electrons, protons, even whole molecules, a startling fact emerged. Particles, too, created interference patterns, behaving as waves spread out in space. But when detectors were placed to watch them pass through the slits, the interference disappeared. The particles acted like particles again. Observation itself changed the outcome. Imagine yourself watching this experiment. You release one electron at a time. It travels toward the 2 slits. Over time, an interference pattern builds on the screen. as though each electron somehow passes through both slits simultaneously. But the moment you decide to watch, to measure which slit it passes through, the interference vanishes. The pattern collapses into certainty. It is as if the universe says, "What you choose to see is what will be." This strange result gave birth to the Copenhagen interpretation, led by Bohr. In this view, particles exist in a state of superposition, multiple possibilities at once, until observed. The wave of probability collapses into a single outcome when measurement occurs. No phenomenon is a real phenomenon, Bohr insisted, until it is an observed phenomenon. Einstein resisted. He could not accept that reality depended on observation. "I like to think the moon is there," he said, "even when I am not looking at it." Yet experiment after experiment confirmed Bohr's perspective. The mystery grew deeper still with quantum entanglement. In 1935, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen presented the EPR paradox. They argued that if quantum mechanics was correct, then two particles that were once linked could remain connected no matter how far apart they traveled. Measuring one would instantly determine the state of the other. Einstein dismissed this as spooky action at a distance. But in 1964, physicist John Bell derived a theorem that could test entanglement. In 1982, Alain Aspect performed an experiment in France that confirmed entanglement beyond doubt. Later, Anton Zeilinger extended these findings, sending entangled photons across kilometers. The verdict was inescapable: particles separated by vast distances remain one system. What happens here is connected to what happens there. And if matter is non-local, if particles can influence each other across space instantly, then what of thought? Could consciousness itself also operate beyond the brain, beyond the skull, rippling across invisible connections? Some clues appeared in neuroscience in the 1980s. Benjamin Libet at UCSF discovered the readiness potential, brain activity that seemed to begin before a person consciously decided to act. Many argued this proved free will was an illusion, but Libet himself disagreed. He suggested consciousness retained a veto power, the ability to redirect or cancel unconscious impulses. In his view, thought still shaped action. Others ventured further into controversial territory. In the 1970s, physicist Helmut Schmidt designed random number generators. He asked participants to try to influence their output with sheer intention. Across thousands of trials, Schmidt reported small but consistent deviations from chance. Thought, it seemed, could tip the scales of probability. Inspired by such results, Robert John, Dean of Engineering at Princeton University, and his colleague Brenda Dunn founded the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research (PR) Lab in 1979. For nearly 3 decades, they studied interactions between consciousness and machines. Millions of data points suggested that human intention could subtly but consistently bias random systems. The effects were tiny, shifts of fractions of a percent, but statistically robust. Critics dismissed the findings, but John argued that the evidence was too persistent to ignore. Picture yourself in that lab. A random number generator hums quietly on the desk. You sit before it, close your eyes, and focus. You imagine more ones than zeros. You imagine balance tilting just slightly. When the data is printed, you see it. The random stream has leaned, however faintly, in your favor. A whisper of mind shaping matter. In the 1980s, biologist Rupert Sheldrake proposed the theory of morphic resonance. He suggested that habits of nature are not fixed but shaped by memory fields. According to Sheldrake, once a pattern is established, it becomes easier for it to occur again. He proposed simple experiments, such as observing whether people can sense when they are being watched, or predicting who is calling on the phone. His results showed above chance accuracy, sparking debate and controversy. Critics accused him of pseudoscience, Yet his work continues to inspire inquiry into the possibility of a non-local mind. Consider the resonance with ancient wisdom. Morphic fields sound much like the Akashic records of Indian philosophy, or the ancestral memory honored in shamanic traditions. Could it be that science is rediscovering truths once expressed in myth? More astonishing still were experiments inspired by physicist John Wheeler's delayed choice proposal. In 2012, researchers at the University of Geneva showed that present decisions could retroactively influence how photons behaved in the past. Time itself seemed pliable, the boundary between now and then blurred. Imagine the implications. Your choice in the present moment could ripple backward, shaping what has already unfolded. If that is true for particles, could it also be true in subtle ways for thought? Could decisions, intentions, even dreams reach across the fabric of time? Physicist John Wheeler himself once declared, "We are participants in a participatory universe." He believed the cosmos required observers to bring it into being. Observation was not passive, it was creative. And so, here we are, standing at the threshold. From Planck's quanta to Bohr's collapse, from Bell's theorem to Aspect's photons, from John's machines to Sheldrake's fields, the foundation is laid. The evidence, scattered yet persistent, points to one conclusion. Thought is not an isolated flicker inside your skull. It may be a force that shapes probability, influences matter, bends the very fabric of reality. Take a slow breath. Imagine your awareness as both lens and brush. With one glance, you reveal hidden patterns. With one thought, you color the canvas. The solidity of the world is not the whole story. Beneath it lies a sea of possibilities, and you simply by being aware are part of its unfolding. And yet, theory and experiment only take us so far. To feel the weight of this mystery, we must turn to stories, to documented cases where thought and reality collide, where intention and outcome entwine in ways that science cannot easily explain. That is where we will go next, deeper into the mysteries of human experience. Imagine for a moment you are standing at the border between the known and the unknown. Behind you, the world of common sense, where events follow rules and thoughts remain private. Before you, a misted landscape where the mind seems to spill into matter, where ideas spark consequences in the physical world. To step forward is to risk your certainty. To remain still is to deny curiosity. Which way do you lean? History is filled with stories that tempt us to cross this threshold. Some are whispers passed from mouth to mouth, others are records logged in serious journals. A few arrive from the very halls of science itself, where witnesses swore they had no explanation. Each case flickers like a lantern in the fog, illuminating for just a moment the possibility that our thoughts do not end at the edge of our skulls. Consider the strange fate of Wolfgang Pauli, one of the sharpest minds of 20th century physics. Pauli gave us the exclusion principle, a cornerstone of modern quantum theory, but he was also infamous for something less tangible: the so-called Pauli effect. Colleagues joked nervously that when Pauli entered a laboratory, delicate equipment would mysteriously fail. In 1930 at the University of Gingen, an apparatus reportedly caught fire at the very moment Pauli arrived at the train station nearby. Was it coincidence? Perhaps. But incidents multiplied. Nobel laureate Otto Stern once banned Pauli from his laboratory, fearing the cost of another broken machine. Even Werner Heisenberg admitted to psychologist Carl Jung that the effect seemed uncomfortably real. The question lingers. Could the intensity of a brilliant but troubled mind project outward, disturbing the fragile balance of wires, lenses, and circuits? Or did the myth grow because scientists, too, are storytellers, hungry for meaning when patterns appear? Either way, the Pauli effect stands as a documented tradition within physics, where thought and matter appear strangely entangled. Now drift eastward in your imagination to a quiet hospital in Japan during the 1960s. A woman in her 30s developed violent rashes whenever she was placed in a particular room. Doctors suspected allergies, perhaps dust, detergent, or mold. Tests revealed nothing. Finally, in a carefully controlled trial, physicians told her she was in the problem room, when in fact she was not. Almost instantly, her skin erupted in hives. Later, they placed her back in the actual room, but this time assured her it was safe. The rashes did not appear. This is the nocebo effect, the dark twin of the placebo. Where belief can heal, fear can wound. The woman's body obeyed not the chemicals of her environment, but the thoughts planted in her mind. Dr. Herbert Benson of Harvard would later study similar processes in the 1970s, showing how meditation and belief triggered measurable physiological changes, from lowered blood pressure to improved immune response. If thoughts can heal and harm the skin, the heart, the immune system, how far do their ripples extend? Now follow me to California, 1972. Inside the Stanford Research Institute, two physicists, Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff, prepare an experiment. Their subject is Ingo Swann, a New York artist with a peculiar talent. He sits quietly, closes his eyes, and begins to describe what he perceives. Not in the room, not in the building, but thousands of miles away. He sketches details of a Soviet facility hidden from public knowledge. Later, military reconnaissance confirms the accuracy. Skeptics scoffed, but the CIA took notice. Soon the program gained the codename Stargate Project. Remote viewers such as Joseph McMoneagle were asked to describe enemy bases, downed aircraft, even the terrain of other planets. In 1973, Swann again stunned researchers by describing the faint rings of Jupiter. Details confirmed only months later by NASA's Pioneer 10 probe. Coincidence becomes harder to argue when data matches discoveries not yet made. Imagine yourself in that testing room. A blank envelope lies on the table. Inside is a photograph sealed from your sight. You are asked to relax, breathe, and describe what comes. At first, your mind feels empty. Then, faint impressions rise: a coastline, metallic structures, the hum of machinery. Your hand sketches without full intent. When the envelope is opened, the hidden photograph reveals a naval base by the sea. Towers, metal, machinery. The match stirs a chill. Did your thoughts travel outward, or did reality travel inward to you? Dreams, too, have played host to these mysteries. In the 1960s at Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, psychiatrist Dr. Montague Ullman and psychologist Dr. Stanley Krippner conducted dream telepathy experiments. A sender concentrated on a chosen image while a receiver slept in another room under observation. Again and again, dream reports reflected details of the hidden image. In one famous trial, the target was Picasso's anguished painting Guernica. That night, the dreamer described violent shapes, cries, and torn figures. The parallel was undeniable. And dreams outside the lab. President Abraham Lincoln confided to his wife a troubling dream of wandering the White House, hearing sobs, and finding a coffin guarded by soldiers. Days later, he was assassinated. Mark Twain wrote of dreaming his brother's death in vivid detail, down to the specific coffin later used. In 1912, some passengers reported dark premonitions before boarding the Titanic. A few canceled their journeys. Many ignored the signs. History remembers the iceberg. Each case alone may be brushed aside, but as you collect them, Pauli's failures, the Japanese patient's hives, Swann's planetary visions, Lincoln's dream, the pattern grows louder. Something in the human mind brushes against the threads of reality. Something leaks through the veil. As you breathe slowly now, consider your own life. A phone call from someone you were just thinking about. A dream that plays out days later. That eerie sensation of déjà vu. Small, perhaps, easy to dismiss, Yet across cultures, across decades, the stories recur. Could it be that thoughts wander more freely than we admit? Could it be that your mind, this very moment, is leaving imprints in places you cannot see? And we have only just begun the catalog. The deeper we go into these documented cases, the more unsettling and the more beautiful the picture becomes. In Part 2, we will turn toward near-death visions, prayer studies, and the extraordinary experiments at Princeton University that tested whether thought could bend even the randomness of machines. Each account more astonishing than the last, each suggesting that your quietest thought may ripple into the vast web of existence itself. So let yourself drift, still awake, still listening, as the path opens into the second half of these remarkable cases. Let us now drift deeper, beyond the twilight of coincidence, and into the regions where life and death themselves seem to blur. Imagine the sterile glow of an operating theater, the steady hum of machines, and the silence that falls when a patient's heart is stopped. It is here, in the narrow corridor between existence and absence, that some of the most striking documented cases emerge. Take, for example, the extraordinary story of Pam Reynolds, whose case has been analyzed and debated for decades. In 1991, at the Barrow Neurological Institute in Arizona, neurosurgeons induced hypothermic cardiac arrest during a risky operation to remove a life-threatening aneurysm. Her body was cooled, her blood drained, her heart and breathing stopped. Instruments confirmed silence in her brain. Yet when she awoke, Pam reported vivid perceptions. The surgical saw that resembled an electric toothbrush, the conversations of the doctors, even the tune playing on the radio in the operating room. Staff later verified her descriptions as accurate. How could awareness persist when clinical instruments measured none? Neurologists have argued over details, but the case remains in medical literature, one of the most famous examples in the field of near-death research. Dr. Michael Sabom, a cardiologist, documented Pam's story in his studies of cardiac arrest survivors, showing that such accounts are not rare. Though hers remains especially striking, Pam Reynolds is not alone. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, published a landmark study in The Lancet in 2001, analyzing near-death experiences among survivors of cardiac arrest across multiple hospitals. About 18% reported perceptions during periods when the brain should have been non-functional. Their stories often contained verifiable details, observations of surgical tools, the presence of relatives in waiting rooms, or descriptions of conversations later confirmed. These were not the vague hallucinations of a fading mind. They were sharp, consistent, and strangely clear. Pause and imagine. You are the one on that table, cold, silent. The machines have declared your absence, yet you feel yourself rising, drifting above. You see your own body lying still. Doctors work with urgency, yet you feel calm. You notice a detail: the color of a nurse's shoes, the rhythm of a joke someone makes to relieve tension. Later, when you recount it, the staff looks stunned. How could you have known? Where were you, if not only in your brain? Such accounts call into question the rigid barrier between subjective thought and objective world. They suggest consciousness may not be bound entirely by neural activity, and if mind can persist beyond silence, might it also radiate outward in subtler ways while the body still lives? From the hush of operating rooms, let us turn to the power of prayer, a quieter but equally provocative field of documented cases. In 1988, cardiologist Dr. Randolph Bird conducted a controlled study at San Francisco General Hospital. Nearly 400 patients were randomly assigned to two groups. One received intercessory prayer from volunteers who never met them, while the other did not. Neither the patients nor the doctors knew which group they belonged to. The results, published in the Southern Medical Journal, showed that the prayed-for group experienced fewer complications, required less assistance with ventilation, and healed more smoothly. The study sparked controversy, but it also opened doors. A decade later, psychiatrist Dr. Elizabeth Targ, daughter of physicist Russell Targ, conducted follow-up research with AIDS patients. Again, those who were prayed for showed statistically significant improvements in health. Her work was peer-reviewed, debated, and remains a cornerstone of the ongoing dialogue about whether human intention, even in the form of silent prayer, can influence distant outcomes. Skeptics have argued methodological flaws, but the very fact that medical journals publish these studies speaks to their rigor. Imagine this: two strangers in different cities, never meeting, never exchanging words. One holds the other in thought, offering silent goodwill. Days later, the recipient's body responds. If even one case is genuine, the implications are staggering. Now let us step into the realm of machines, not living cells, not fragile human nerves, but cold electronics designed to resist influence. For nearly 3 decades, the PAR Lab's Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research, directed by Dean Robert John and Brenda Dunn, tested whether human thought could shift the behavior of random number generators. Volunteers sat before small devices spitting out streams of unpredictable digits. By intention alone, wishing the output higher or lower, they attempted to bend probability. Over millions of trials, a tiny but consistent deviation appeared. The effect was small but statistically undeniable. Human minds seemed to leave fingerprints on randomness itself. The results were published in monographs and technical reports, baffling engineers who could find no mechanical flaw. Participants often described unusual sensations merging with the machine, dissolving into its hum, feeling as if boundaries between mind and metal were porous. Some spoke of entering a meditative trance, others of sudden bursts of focus. Whatever the subjective description, the data suggested something remarkable. That thought alone nudged the very fabric of probability. Think about what that means. If thoughts can influence machines designed to be unpredictable, what else might they touch? Could every roll of the dice, every flip of a coin, every chance meeting be quietly tilted by the undercurrent of human intention? Beyond Princeton, similar studies emerged in other laboratories. The Global Consciousness Project, initiated by Dr. Roger Nelson, expanded the concept worldwide. Random number generators placed in dozens of countries were monitored simultaneously. During moments of global emotional intensity, September 11th, New Year's celebrations, large-scale meditations, the machine's outputs drifted away from randomness as though collective human focus synchronized with subtle patterns in the physical world. Now let us gather these lanterns of evidence together. Pam Reynolds describing surgical instruments while clinically absent. Van Lommel's patients recalling details during cardiac silence. Bird's prayer study altering recovery. Elizabeth Targ's research showing distant healing. John and Dunn's machines bending under human thought. Nelson's global project whispering of a planetary mind. Each stands alone as a curiosity. Together, they form a chorus, not yet proof, but a resonance. A suggestion that mind is not a private echo chamber, but a participant in the weave of reality. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine every thought you have tonight drifting outward like ripples on a pond. Some merge with the thoughts of others. Some graze against the probabilities of tomorrow. Some rise like faint signals into a greater field of awareness, too subtle for instruments yet too consistent to dismiss. As you continue to drift into stillness, let these documented cases rest gently in your mind, not as dogma, not as absolute truth, but as invitations. Invitations to consider that the universe may listen more closely than we believe, that reality itself may be softer, more impressionable, more participatory than textbooks suggest. And now, let us transition from documented cases into the very mathematics and paradoxes of quantum mechanics. For there, in equations and experiments, lies a framework that may explain why your thoughts could be creating not just ripples, but entire parallel worlds. Imagine, just for a moment, that you are standing in a quiet laboratory. The lights are dim, the air hums with electricity, and before you rests a small experimental setup. Simple at first glance, yet it hides a mystery that has baffled the greatest minds in history. This is the stage of quantum mechanics, a world where particles behave like waves, where possibilities shimmer until observed, and where reality itself seems to bend in response to attention. It all began more than a century ago. In 1900, the German physicist Max Planck proposed something revolutionary: energy is not continuous, as once believed, but comes in tiny packets he called quanta. This single idea, born of his attempt to solve a problem with radiation in black bodies, cracked open a doorway into a world stranger than anyone could have imagined. Only 5 years later, Albert Einstein built upon it, explaining the photoelectric effect, how light-striking metal could eject electrons, with the daring suggestion that light itself behaved as if it were made of particles, later called photons. Imagine the confusion. For centuries, light was thought to be a wave, proven by interference experiments. Now, Einstein suggested it was also a particle. Could something be both? This contradiction was not just puzzling, it was the beginning of a revolution in how we perceive reality. By the 1920s, the foundations of quantum mechanics were being laid by pioneers such as Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Erwin Schrödinger. Each contributed a piece to the puzzle. Bohr spoke of electrons circling the nucleus in discrete orbits, leaping from one level to another like rungs on a ladder of possibility. Heisenberg introduced the uncertainty principle, declaring that you could never know both the exact position and momentum of a particle at the same time. Schrödinger, meanwhile, envisioned the strange mathematics of wave functions, equations that described probabilities rather than certainties. It was here that the famous double-slit experiment rose into legend. Picture a barrier with two narrow slits cut side by side. Behind it, a screen catches whatever passes through. When particles such as electrons are fired one by one at the barrier, you might expect them to behave like little bullets, forming two bands on the screen, each behind a slit. But instead, something impossible appears, an interference pattern like ripples of water overlapping. Even when fired singly, the particles build up a wave-like pattern, as if each electron went through both slits at once. How could a single particle take multiple paths simultaneously? The only explanation seemed to be that, until observed, the particle exists in a state of superposition. Many possibilities at once. Now imagine scientists adding detectors to watch the electrons more closely. Suddenly, the interference disappears. The electrons behave like particles again, choosing one slit or the other. It is as if the very act of observation collapses the shimmering field of possibilities into a single reality. Pause here and let yourself feel the strangeness. What does it mean that reality behaves differently when watched? If the universe shifts depending on observation, then what role does consciousness play? This is not a question confined to philosophers or mystics. Even the most rigorous scientists have wrestled with it. John von Neumann, a mathematician and pioneer of quantum theory, argued that the collapse of the wave function required a conscious observer. Eugene Wigner, Nobel laureate in physics, speculated that mind might be fundamental, not matter. In his Wigner's Friend thought experiment, he imagined a situation where one observer sees a quantum event collapse, but another, outside the system, still perceives it as a superposition. Whose reality is true? Imagine sitting in a theater of mirrors, each reflection showing a different version of you. Which one is real? Perhaps all of them, until you decide to look closely at just one. The paradox deepens with Schrödinger's cat, a thought experiment devised in 1935. Schrödinger described a cat sealed in a box with a vial of poison that would be released if a radioactive atom decayed. According to quantum mechanics, the atom exists in a superposition of decayed and not decayed until measured. Thus, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time, until you open the box. Absurd, yet this highlights the strangeness of applying quantum principles to everyday objects. You can feel your mind stretching as you consider this. What if reality at its deepest level is not fixed, but fluid? What if every possibility exists side by side, waiting for the gentle touch of observation to crystallize it into form? Some interpretations, like the many worlds theory proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957, take this even further. Instead of wave functions collapsing, Everett suggested that every possibility continues, branching into parallel universes. In one, the cat lives. In another, the cat dies. Both are real, but each in a separate world. If this is true, then every choice you make, every thought you hold, may echo across countless parallel versions of reality. Let yourself imagine, perhaps tonight, as you listen, there are other versions of you, drifting off to sleep in slightly different rooms, breathing in slightly different rhythms. A multiverse of selves, each unfolding according to branching streams of possibility. And yet, within the mystery lies an invitation. If thoughts and observations truly participate in shaping reality, then what you focus on matters. What you believe, what you expect, may ripple outward into the very structure of existence. This is only the beginning of the journey into quantum mechanics. We have touched the surface, the duality of particles and waves, the interference of the double slit, the paradox of observation. In the next part, we will go deeper into quantum entanglement, non-locality, and the strange ways in which particles remain linked across space and time, hinting at a universe where separation is only an illusion. For now, allow yourself to rest in the wonder. The universe is not what it seems, and you, as an observer, may be far more powerful than you ever imagined. Now, let us go deeper into a phenomenon Einstein once called spooky action at a distance. This is the strange world of quantum entanglement. Imagine two particles, once connected, flying apart in opposite directions across vast distances. According to classical logic, once separated, they should behave independently. But quantum physics tells a different story. In 1935, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen published their famous paper, the EPR paradox, arguing that quantum mechanics must be incomplete. They could not accept that two particles, separated by miles or even light years, could instantly influence each other. Yet experiments over the decades have consistently shown that entangled particles share an invisible link. Measure the spin of one, and the other instantly knows, no matter how far away. Think about that: faster than light, beyond the limits of space. As if reality itself is woven together beneath the surface, a hidden fabric connecting all things. One of the most decisive demonstrations came from Alain Aspect in 1982 at the Institut d'Optique in France. Aspect and his team performed experiments on entangled photons that closed many of the loopholes critics had pointed to. The results showed violations of Bell's inequalities, confirming that the world does not behave according to classical, local realism. Instead, the particles seem to share information instantly, defying the ordinary flow of cause and effect. Imagine two dice rolled on opposite sides of the galaxy, yet always adding up to 7. Impossible unless they were secretly connected in ways beyond our current comprehension. Later experiments pushed the boundaries even further. In 2015, teams in the Netherlands, led by Ronald Hansen, conducted a Lufol-free test of Bell's theorem, sending entangled electrons across a distance of 1.3 kilometers. Again, the results confirmed quantum predictions. Nature itself seems to defy the separation we perceive with our senses. Pause for a moment, breathe deeply, and allow yourself to feel the implications. If everything in the universe is woven together by such threads, then perhaps your thoughts, subtle, invisible, yet powerful, are part of that same entangled web. This leads us to non-locality, the principle that events can be connected without direct interaction through space, time. The equations of quantum mechanics suggest that the entire universe may operate as a single, indivisible whole. Separation may be an illusion born of our limited perception. The Hungarian physicist John Archibald Wheeler, one of the great minds of the 20th century, introduced the delayed choice experiment. In this scenario, a particle's behavior, wave or particle, can be determined by a decision made after it has already entered the experiment. In other words, choices in the present seem to influence events in the past. Consider what that implies. Your observation now might ripple backward, reshaping the story of how reality arrived at this moment. Time itself may not be as linear as we imagine. In laboratories around the world, researchers continue to probe these mysteries. At the University of Vienna, physicists like Anton Zeilinger have pushed entanglement experiments across increasing distances, even between satellites and ground stations, hinting at the possibility of quantum communication networks. Zeilinger, awarded the Nobel Prize in 2022, demonstrated that entanglement is not fragile fantasy, but an undeniable property of the physical world. So what does this mean for you, lying here, drifting towards sleep? It suggests that your consciousness may not be confined within your skull, that your awareness might already be participating in a vast, interconnected quantum field. Some interpretations, like David Bohm's theory of the implicate order, suggest that the visible universe is only the unfolded surface of a deeper reality, where everything is enfolded into everything else. In this view, what seems separate is actually part of a unified whole. Every thought, every perception, is connected to the totality. Imagine holding a hologram in your hand. Break it into pieces, and each fragment still contains the whole image. Bohm suggested the universe is like this, every part reflecting the entirety. And so, quantum mechanics is not just about tiny particles. It is a mirror for understanding existence itself. The double-slit experiment whispers that observation matters. Entanglement shows that connection transcends space. Delayed choice experiments hint that time may bend to awareness. If this is true, then perhaps your very act of listening tonight is more than passive. Perhaps by engaging with these ideas, you are already influencing which version of reality unfolds tomorrow. Breathe deeply and let your imagination drift. See yourself as both particle and wave, local and non-local, a being of flesh and yet also a ripple in the quantum sea. Every possibility stretches before you. Every choice branches into universes unknown. And within you lies the quiet power to observe, to focus, to bring one path into clarity. This is the gift quantum mechanics offers, not certainty but wonder. A recognition that reality is stranger, softer, and more participatory than we were taught. As you rest now, allow these paradoxes to settle gently into your mind. They are not puzzles to be solved all at once, but melodies to be felt. With every breath, you weave yourself deeper into the symphony of existence, where thought and world are never fully apart. And from here, we will drift toward the next horizon, the study of consciousness itself. If quantum mechanics reveals a universe open to observation, then consciousness may be the key that unlocks its hidden doors. Let us now shift our gaze inward, away from particles and equations, into the mystery of awareness itself. For what use is a universe of probabilities without the presence of consciousness to perceive it? If quantum mechanics whispers that observation matters, then surely the nature of the observer becomes the central question. What is this awareness you call I, and how does it participate in shaping the world? Modern science has tried, again and again, to reduce consciousness to nothing more than the firing of neurons, the chemical dance of synapses, the hum of the brain's electrical storm. Yet the more deeply researchers peer, the more elusive the mystery becomes. For consciousness is not easily pinned down. It is not a single location in the brain, nor a mere by-product of computation. It feels both intimate and infinite, both personal and universal. Consider the work of Dr. Benjamin Libet, a neuroscientist at the University of California, San Francisco. In the 1980s, Libet conducted experiments measuring brain activity before voluntary actions. He discovered something startling: electrical signals in the brain, known as readiness potentials, appeared milliseconds before subjects reported consciously deciding to move. In other words, the brain seemed to prepare for action before awareness claimed authorship. Was free will an illusion? Or could consciousness be participating from outside the usual flow of time? Pause for a moment, imagine raising your hand. Do you feel the decision happen first in your mind, or does the motion begin before you even know it? Libet's experiments raised this paradox, and it has haunted neuroscience ever since. Yet other studies suggest consciousness is not merely reactive, but may reach outward, beyond the confines of skull and skin. At the Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, during the 1960s and 70s, psychologist Montague Ullman and parapsychologist Stanley Krippner conducted dream telepathy experiments. In these studies, one person, the sender, was shown an image while another, the receiver, slept in a nearby room. The dream reports of the receiver were then compared to the target images. Across dozens of sessions, statistically significant correlations emerged. Dreams seemed to reach across the invisible veil, carrying impressions of distant thoughts. Imagine yourself asleep in a quiet room, your mind drifting in dream. Somewhere else, another person gazes at a painting of a waterfall, its cascading waters glistening in the light. That night, you dream of flowing rivers, of mist and rushing currents. Coincidence? Or is the dream world less private than we think? The Ganzfeld experiments, pioneered in the 1970s and 80s, extended this inquiry. Participants were placed in sensory, reduced conditions: half ping-pong balls over the eyes, soft red light flooding vision, white noise in the ears. In this receptive state, they attempted to perceive images being sent by distant partners. Meta-analyses of these studies, pooling results across decades, suggest an effect size that, while modest, is consistently above chance. Skeptics argue methodology, yet the persistence of the anomaly refuses to disappear. And then there is the research of Dr. Daryl Bem at Cornell University. In 2011, Bem published a series of precognition experiments in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. His studies suggested that participants could unconsciously anticipate future stimuli, identifying where images would appear or showing physiological responses seconds before erotic or emotional pictures were revealed. The publication ignited intense debate, but the data stood as an unsettling possibility that consciousness may not be bound strictly by linear time. Let yourself imagine that your awareness tonight is not only drifting forward into dreams, but also rippling backward and sideways through time itself. What if the déjà vu you feel is not error, but a glimpse of an echo from the future? Neuroscience, parapsychology, and psychology all converge on this growing recognition that consciousness may not be confined within the brain alone. The work of Dr. Rupert Sheldrake further expands this with his theory of morphic resonance, the idea that memory is not stored solely in brains, but in fields that connect all beings. He describes how patterns once established become easier to repeat, as though habits of nature themselves are contagious across space and time. Pause and reflect. If Sheldrake is right, then your thoughts tonight are not isolated. They ripple into a collective memory field, shaping the ease with which others may think similar thoughts tomorrow. Consciousness, in this view, is not trapped inside, it is broadcast, received, and woven into the larger fabric of the living cosmos. As you continue to drift, notice how these ideas form a subtle patterns, from Libet's timing paradox, to Ullman and Krippner's dream experiments, to Ganzfeld telepathy, to Bem's precognition, to Sheldrake's resonance. Each is a light in the darkness, pointing toward the same question: is your mind bigger than your body? And perhaps more daring still, could your consciousness be one of the hidden levers of reality, influencing not just your own thoughts, but the probabilities of the world itself? Let these questions rest softly in your imagination as we prepare to go even deeper into further research and evidence in the continuation of this chapter. As we continue, let us look at one of the most daring research programs ever attempted, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, known simply as PR, founded in 1979 by Dr. Robert John, Dean of Engineering at Princeton University. PR explored whether consciousness could directly influence physical systems. For nearly 3 decades, John and his team ran experiments using random number generators, devices designed to produce sequences of zeros and ones without pattern. Participants were asked to will the machine toward producing more of one than the other. Across millions of trials, subtle but measurable deviations from chance were recorded. The effect sizes were small but persistent. When the data was pooled, it suggested that human intention might indeed be able to nudge probability itself. Imagine that your focused attention shifting the balance of randomness, as though the universe listens not just to what you do, but to what you desire. Critics were quick to respond, arguing that methodological flaws or statistical artifacts explained the anomalies. Yet the PR team was meticulous, refining protocols and publishing results over decades. By the time the lab closed in 2007, its legacy remained unresolved. Evidence too consistent to dismiss outright, yet too radical for mainstream science to fully embrace. Pause for a moment, picture yourself staring at a device that spits out ones and zeros, meaningless strings of digital coin tosses. And yet, with your quiet concentration, the numbers begin to tilt, ever so slightly, toward your chosen outcome. Could it be that thought itself carries weight, invisible yet real? Beyond machines, consciousness research also turns toward the body. Consider the placebo effect, long recognized in medicine. A sugar pill, given with authority and belief, can relieve pain, shrink symptoms, even alter biochemistry. Harvard researcher Dr. Ted Kapchuk has studied this extensively, showing that placebos can work even when patients are told they are receiving a placebo. The act of belief, the expectation of healing, seems to awaken powers within the mind that ripple into the flesh. And then there is the darker twin, the nocebo effect, when negative expectations produce real harm. If words and beliefs can wound or heal, then clearly consciousness reaches deep into the material world of cells and organs. Perhaps what we call mind over matter is not a fringe notion at all, but a fundamental principle of human existence. Consciousness research has also extended into studies of near-death experiences, or NDEs. In hospitals across the world, patients revived after cardiac arrest report strikingly similar phenomena, floating above their bodies, moving through tunnels of light, encountering beings or loved ones who had passed away. one of the largest studies, led by Dr. Sam Parnia at the University of Southampton, examined hundreds of cardiac arrest survivors. Many reported awareness during periods when their brains should have been inactive. Skeptics suggest hallucination or oxygen deprivation. Yet some accounts include verifiable details, descriptions of events in the operating room, conversations overheard, objects observed from impossible vantage points. If even a fraction of these reports are accurate, then consciousness cannot be entirely tethered to brain function. It suggests that awareness may continue when neural machinery is offline, hinting at dimensions of mind beyond biology. Let yourself imagine drifting free from the body, watching calmly as doctors work below, yet feeling no fear, only an expanded presence. Whether metaphor or reality, such accounts invite us to reconsider what consciousness truly is, and how it might connect to greater realities. Another domain worth noting is the research into global consciousness effects. The Global Consciousness Project, led by Dr. Roger Nelson, extended the work of PR to a planetary scale. Random number generators were placed around the world, continuously recording data. The hypothesis: during moments of mass emotional focus, such as global tragedies, celebrations, or events like New Year's Eve, these devices would deviate from randomness. And remarkably, during many such events, significant correlations were observed. It was as though human consciousness, synchronized across millions, could impress itself upon the fabric of probability worldwide. Imagine millions of hearts and minds watching the same event: the fall of the Berlin Wall, the morning after September 11th, the collective joy of global celebrations. And in those moments, invisible patterns shift, as though the planet itself registers the pulse of human feeling. From the intimate, a placebo pill altering your biology, to the vast, billions of minds tugging at probability together, the message begins to echo louder. Consciousness may be more than private experience. It may be participatory, co-creative, woven into the very structure of reality. And so, as you lie here listening, consider your own thoughts as ripples in this great ocean of mind. Each image, each emotion, each silent wish may extend beyond the boundaries of your skull, touching machines, bodies, even the probabilities of the cosmos. Science has only scratched the surface, but the hints are undeniable. As this chapter closes, let yourself drift on a thought both humbling and empowering, that what you imagine tonight might not vanish into nothingness. It might echo in fields unseen, shape the patterns of tomorrow, and whisper across distances into other minds. And as you breathe deeply, relaxing further, know that this is only the beginning. For in the next chapter, we will turn toward the hidden evidence, the clues and anomalies often overlooked, yet waiting patiently to tell their story. And still, the research journeys on one striking area lies in the study of out-of-body experiences under controlled conditions. At the University of Virginia, researcher Dr. Bruce Grayson, one of the pioneers of near-death studies, documented patients who reported floating above their bodies and perceiving details they should not have been able to know. In some trials, hidden images were placed high on shelves, visible only from an elevated perspective. While evidence remains mixed, occasional verifications have kept curiosity alive, reminding us that human awareness may extend beyond physical vantage points. Another domain of exploration is meditation research. Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison used fMRI scans to observe Tibetan monks during deep meditation. Their brain activity showed patterns rarely seen in ordinary states: synchronized rhythms, heightened gamma waves, and coherence across regions. The monks described expansive awareness, unity, and clarity beyond the individual self. Science measures the neural correlates, but the practitioners insist Consciousness is not produced by the brain, it is revealed through it. So as you lie here, drifting deeper into stillness, imagine that your awareness, too, is capable of expanding beyond the narrow focus of daily life. Imagine that with every breath, you are tuning to hidden dimensions, a field of mind both personal and universal. Research only hints at this truth, but your inner experience tonight may taste it directly. What if the most important evidence for the mysteries of consciousness and reality is not the data we celebrate, but the data we dismiss? Or what if the cracks in the scientific edifice, the anomalies, the outliers, the things that don't quite add up, are not errors, but signals pointing toward deeper truths? For centuries, science has been built on the idea of replication and consensus. Yet in nearly every field, there are results that resist easy explanation. These results are often filed away forgotten, or explained away as noise. But what if they are not noise at all? What if they are whispers from the edge of our understanding, inviting us to listen more closely? Consider the work of Dr. J.B. Rhine at Duke University in the 1930s and 40s. Rhine's experiments with ESP cards, simple decks with stars, waves, circles, and crosses, suggested that some individuals scored consistently above chance when guessing hidden symbols. The statistical anomalies were striking. Critics accused him of poor controls, yet his methods improved over time, and still the anomalies persisted. When results support the expected framework, they are celebrated. When they do not, they are buried. Rhine's decades of data remain a vast archive of possibility, rarely revisited in mainstream psychology. Then there are the stories from military and intelligence programs. During the Cold War, the U.S. government-funded Project Stargate, a remote viewing program that trained individuals to perceive distant locations or hidden targets using only the mind. For over 20 years, intelligence officers and psychics alike sketched buildings, described landscapes, and even located hostages. Officially, the program was declassified in the 1990s and dismissed as inconclusive. But buried within the reports are examples too accurate to ignore. Coordinates described in detail, drawings eerily matching actual photographs. Was this simply chance, or evidence of a hidden capacity of human awareness? Imagine yourself as one of those viewers sitting in a quiet room, a sealed envelope placed before you. You relax focus and allow impressions to rise. A dome, a river, a metallic structure. Later, the target is revealed a missile site near water, with a domed roof gleaming in the sun. What is this ability? Fantasy or suppressed human potential? Another thread of hidden evidence lies in medicine. Throughout history, spontaneous remissions, sudden, unexplainable healings from terminal illness, have baffled doctors. The case files of oncology are sprinkled with patients who should have died, yet recovered fully without treatment. Researchers like Dr. Kelly Turner have documented hundreds of such cases, identifying common factors such as belief, radical lifestyle shifts, deep spiritual experience, or intense visualization. These phenomena rarely make headlines in medical journals because they cannot be reliably replicated. Yet they exist, stubborn reminders that human intention, belief, and perhaps something beyond, may play a role in physical survival. And then there is the realm of archaeology. Throughout the world, there are structures. From the pyramids of Egypt to the megaliths of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, that defy simple explanations of human capability at the time of their construction. Precision stone cutting, astronomical alignments, massive stones transported across impossible distances. Conventional history offers theories, but the anomalies remain. Where ancient builders tapping into knowledge long forgotten, where they aligned with cosmic patterns in ways we have dismissed. These mysteries whisper of civilizations who may have understood the interplay of mind-matter. and universe in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. Pause here and consider your own life. Think of the times when coincidence seemed too precise, when your intuition guided you to the right place, when a dream mirrored waking reality, when your thoughts seemed to anticipate the world. These moments may have felt small, fleeting, yet they are your personal hidden evidence, signals from the edge of your own awareness. The tendency of the human mind is to normalize, to dismiss, to forget. Yet the collection of anomalies across science, medicine, intelligence, archaeology, and personal life begins to form a pattern that suggests we are missing something fundamental. As you breathe slowly now, let the thought settle that the very fabric of reality may be hiding its secrets in plain sight. Through anomalies we overlook, the cracks in the system are not failures, they are windows. And perhaps, if we lean closer, those windows reveal a parallel truth, that your thoughts are not passive reflections, but active participants in weaving the world. And as you drift deeper into this realization, know that we have only begun with the first layer of hidden evidence. More remains, stories, cases, and data points that, when assembled, tell an extraordinary tale. And it is to these that we will turn in the continuation of this chapter. Let us continue deeper into the vault of anomalies, where whispers of possibility have long been hidden in plain sight. For some, this evidence is unsettling. For others, it is liberating. And for you, lying here now, it is an invitation to drift further into the mystery of what consciousness may truly be capable of. One striking example comes from the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, who spent decades collecting reports of children who remembered past lives. His team documented over 500 cases worldwide, often involving young children who recalled names, places, and circumstances they should have had no way of knowing. In some instances, birthmarks or physical traits matched injuries from the claimed previous life. Critics call it suggestion or coincidence, yet Stevenson's meticulous documentation remains difficult to dismiss. Hidden in the academic archives, his studies suggest that memory itself may not be confined to a single lifetime. Then there are the curious phenomena surrounding animals. In the 1990s, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake conducted experiments with dogs who seemed to know when their owners were coming home. Even when return times were randomly shifted, some dogs consistently went to the door minutes before their owners arrived. Cameras recorded the behavior, ruling out routine or environmental cues. Was this simple coincidence or evidence of a subtle field of connection between minds, whether human or animal? Consider the countless reports of telepathic bonds between twins, where one feels the pain or joy of the other across great distances. Official science shrugs, but the stories endure. These are the kinds of clues that rarely find their way into textbooks, yet they linger, whispered from generation to generation, waiting for a paradigm shift big enough to embrace them. Hidden evidence also surfaces in physics. In the 1990s, experiments in quantum entanglement confirmed what Einstein once called spooky action at a distance. Pairs of particles once linked behaved as though connected instantly, even when separated by vast distances. Physicists celebrated the triumph of prediction, but often overlooked the philosophical implications. If particles can share information across space instantaneously, what of consciousness? Could human awareness also be entangled in ways science has barely begun to measure? And beyond the laboratory, history is rich with accounts of mystical visions, prophetic dreams, and synchronicities too precise to ignore. The Roman historian Suetonius recorded dreams foretelling the death of Julius Caesar. Abraham Lincoln reportedly dreamed of his own assassination days before it occurred. Carl Jung, the great depth psychologist, spoke often of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defied causal explanation. These fragments, scattered across time, may be dismissed as legend, yet they echo with consistency, suggesting that human awareness brushes against hidden layers of reality more often than we acknowledge. Imagine yourself, perhaps, waking from a dream that later unfolds in waking life. You shrug it off, telling yourself it was chance. But what if it was a signal? A ripple across the surface of time, touching you just long enough to leave an impression. How many such signals have you overlooked, forgotten, explained away? There are also stories of suppressed inventions and lost technologies. Nikola Tesla, the visionary inventor, often spoke of receiving ideas in flashes of illumination, as though transmitted from elsewhere. His notebooks contain sketches and concepts far ahead of their time, some still difficult to replicate today. Whether one sees this as genius intuition or something more mysterious, it reminds us that breakthroughs may arise not only from calculation, but from tuning into channels of thought that lie beyond the ordinary mind. All of this forms a tapestry of what we might call hidden evidence. Each thread on its own is fragile. A story of a dog waiting by the door, a child's memory of another life, a dream that predicts an event, a random number generator that shifts against the odds. But when these threads are woven together, the picture becomes harder to ignore. Perhaps consciousness is larger than we think. Perhaps your thoughts are not sealed away in the private chambers of your skull, but part of a vast network, resonating, transmitting, receiving. The hidden evidence suggests that we are already participating in this network, whether or not we acknowledge it. And so, as you breathe gently now, letting your body sink into comfort, consider that the greatest secrets may not be locked in laboratories or archives, but already within your own experience. Every coincidence, every intuition, every unexplained knowing is a piece of your personal archive of hidden evidence. What would happen if you began to honor those moments instead of discarding them? What if you lived as though your thoughts mattered, not just to you, but to the world itself? As this chapter draws toward its end, let the thought rest in you like a seed, that the truth of consciousness may not be discovered in a single grand revelation, but in the countless quiet anomalies we overlook. The hidden evidence is already here, waiting for you to see it. And in the next chapter, we will turn toward modern discoveries, the cutting-edge research of our own era, where science and mystery begin to converge in ways more visible than ever before. There is still more to uncover, for hidden evidence is not only buried in research archives or ancient ruins. It lives quietly in the lives of ordinary people, in countless stories whispered yet rarely recorded. Consider the millions of reports of near-death and out-of-body experiences that never reach medical journals. A nurse notices a patient describing objects on a high shelf he could not have seen. A child recalls the precise details of a relative's passing before being told. Families keep these moments private, fearing disbelief. Yet they are part of the unspoken archive of humanity. And what of the countless synchronicities? The phone call you think of just before it arrives, the song that answers your silent question, the sudden meeting that feels orchestrated by something larger. Individually, they are brushed off. Collectively, they hint at a reality threaded with meaning. Even within mainstream science, some results simply vanish from discussion. Studies that show mind-matter correlations, anomalous healing, or inexplicable intuitive knowledge are often labeled file drawer findings, research too strange to publish. But the absence of recognition does not erase their existence. Pause and imagine. What if all these hidden fragments were gathered, honored, and studied with the seriousness they deserve? Would we not already see the outline of a new science? One that acknowledges consciousness as central, not peripheral. Perhaps the hidden evidence is not waiting to be found. Perhaps it is waiting to be believed. The mysteries of the mind are not confined to dusty archives or ancient temples. Even now, in laboratories and universities around the world, researchers are uncovering evidence that consciousness may be far stranger, far more expansive than we once believed. And as you lie here, drifting deeper, allow yourself to imagine what these discoveries might mean. Let us begin with the remarkable field of neuroplasticity. For decades, scientists believed that the brain was fixed after childhood, its circuits rigid and unchanging. But work by researchers such as Dr. Michael Merzenich in the 1980s revealed something extraordinary. The brain rewires itself constantly. Stroke patients who had lost speech regained it through training. Blind individuals rewired their visual cortex to process sound and touch. Conscious practice reshaped the structure of the brain itself. If awareness can physically re-sculpt neural pathways, then the line between thought and matter becomes thinner than we imagined. Move forward to the rise of brain-computer interfaces. At Brown University, neuroscientist Dr. John Donohue and his team developed the BrainGate system, allowing paralyzed patients to control robotic arms simply by imagining the movement. Electrodes recorded neural signals, translating thought into action. Imagine that, an idea in the mind reaching outward, commanding machines. Though framed as medical technology, it also blurs the line between inner and outer reality. And then there is the growing fascination with quantum biology. Once thought relevant only to subatomic particles, quantum effects are now being discovered in living systems. In 2007, researchers at University College London found evidence that avian navigation depends on quantum entanglement within the bird's eyes, allowing them to sense Earth's magnetic field. Photosynthesis, too, appears to exploit quantum coherence, transferring energy with near-perfect efficiency. If life itself leans on quantum principles, then perhaps consciousness, the most enigmatic feature of life, is also intertwined with the quantum realm. Pause for a moment. Imagine your own mind as a quantum system, flickering between possibilities, selecting outcomes not by accident, but through awareness. What would that mean for your daily choices, your dreams, even the reality you are drifting into now? Another discovery lies in the field of psychedelic neuroscience. Studies at Imperial College London, led by Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris, have mapped the brain under the influence of substances like psilocybin. Instead of shutting the brain down, these compounds dissolve rigid patterns of activity, allowing distant regions to communicate in new ways. Subjects report experiences of unity, timelessness, and expanded awareness. Descriptions strikingly similar to mystical traditions across cultures. Could it be that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but filtered by it, and that under altered conditions, the filter loosens, revealing the larger field of mind? Modern discoveries also extend to artificial intelligence and simulation theory. Physicist Dr. James Gates, studying supersymmetry equations, found what appeared to be computer code, error-correcting codes, embedded in the mathematics of the universe itself. Was this coincidence, or a sign that reality behaves like an information system? Tech philosopher Nick Bostrom has argued that if advanced civilizations can simulate realities, then the odds are high that we are already living in one. If so, your thoughts tonight may not merely be private musings, but lines of code influencing the simulation itself. Imagine, just for a moment, that every choice you make creates a fork in the program, a branching path. Somewhere another version of you follows the path you did not take. And as you listen now, perhaps countless versions of you are listening too, in countless parallel threads. The discoveries are not only theoretical. Practical experiments at CRN continue to probe the quantum vacuum, while physicists like Dr. Anton Zeilinger in Vienna push entanglement studies to greater distances. Each new result reinforces the unsettling truth. Reality is interconnected in ways our common sense struggles to grasp. And as you relax deeper into your pillow, let yourself feel the weight of this, that the cutting-edge science of today does not close the mystery. It expands it. With every discovery, the boundaries blur further between mind and matter, self and universe, the dream and the waking world. This is only the beginning of modern findings. In the continuation, we will look more closely at technology, global consciousness, and the frontiers of physics. Glimpses of a future where science itself begins to confirm what mystics have whispered for millennia. As the night deepens, the modern world continues to reveal secrets that seem almost designed to stretch the human imagination. These discoveries arrive not only from physics and neuroscience, but also from global experiments that measure the mysterious interplay between consciousness and the material world. One of the most intriguing projects is the Global Consciousness Project, led by Dr. Roger Nelson at Princeton University. Beginning in the late 1990s, researchers set up random number generators around the globe, expecting sequences of data that should be completely chaotic. Yet during times of collective focus, global meditation events, natural disasters, even New Year's celebrations, the machines deviated from randomness. It was as if the shared attention of millions of minds subtly bent the probabilities themselves. If true, then consciousness is not isolated in individual skulls. It is a field rippling across the planet, influencing matter in ways both measurable and profound. Pause for a moment and imagine your thoughts tonight, quiet as they may seem, might be part of a larger wave, a subtle current in the ocean of human awareness. Could it be that reality itself responds to these unseen tides? Meanwhile, technology is drawing us closer to what once sounded like science fiction. Consider the rise of quantum computers built by companies like Google and IBM. In 2019, Google announced it had achieved quantum supremacy, performing a calculation in minutes that would take a supercomputer thousands of years. But what makes quantum computers extraordinary is not just their speed. It is the way they process possibilities simultaneously, mirroring the many worlds' interpretation of physics. When you run a program on a quantum computer, you are, in some sense, asking parallel universes to collaborate. And if machines can harness this, might human consciousness already be doing so on a deeper level? Then there is the curious case of dream research. At Northwestern University in 2021, a team led by Dr. Ken Poller made contact with lucid dreamers in real time, asking them math questions while they were asleep. To the astonishment of researchers, dreamers answered correctly with eye movements, proving that two-way communication with sleeping minds is possible. The implications ripple outward. If we can exchange information across the boundary of dreams, perhaps dreams are not mere fictions of the brain, but portals into parallel dimensions of mind. And what of the mysteries of memory and time? Neuroscientists studying déjà vu, for instance, find that it cannot be explained entirely by glitches in memory. Some propose it is the mind briefly aligning with another timeline, a parallel path where events unfolded slightly differently. As you lie here, you might recall such moments, times when reality felt strangely familiar, as if you had lived it before. Was it illusion? Or was it a glimpse across the veil of worlds? Modern physics also presses forward with experiments that redefine what reality is. In 2019, researchers at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh performed a test of Wigner's friend paradox, an experiment suggesting that two observers can experience different realities at the same time, and both can be correct. If observers create reality through measurement, then reality itself may not be singular. It may be plural, layered, shifting according to perception. You and I may inhabit overlapping, but not identical universes, stitched together by the act of observation. Another line of discovery comes from epigenetics. Scientists now know that your thoughts, emotions, and environment can influence which genes are expressed, even passed down across generations. Stress, meditation, diet, and belief all ripple into the body's genetic script. Imagine a moment of calm tonight. A thought of peace could change the way your very cells express themselves tomorrow. Consciousness writes directly into biology, bridging inner and outer worlds. And we must not forget the silent revolution in astronomy and cosmology. As telescopes peer deeper into the universe, scientists find signs of cosmic structures that defy explanation, galaxies rotating too quickly, patterns suggesting unseen dimensions, hints of a multiverse embedded in the very mathematics of space-time. While most of these findings remain speculative, they point to a humbling truth, that what we call reality may be only a fraction of the greater whole. As modern discoveries accumulate, a strange pattern emerges. They do not close the questions of consciousness and reality. They amplify them. Technology reveals possibilities once dismissed as fantasy. Physics shows us paradoxes that common sense cannot resolve. Neuroscience uncovers layers of mind we did not know existed. And through it all, the old whispers of mystic sages and dreamers echo in new forms. As you listen now, drifting between wakefulness and sleep, allow yourself to feel this continuity. Ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science are not rivals, but partners in a larger unfolding. The truths of tomorrow may already be alive within you tonight, waiting to be remembered in dreams. And in the next chapter, we will look not at what has been, nor what is now, but what may yet come. The future implications of these discoveries, and how they could transform not only our understanding of the universe, but the very way we live our daily lives. Yet even with all these discoveries, there are threads still weaving themselves quietly into the fabric of our time. One such thread lies in the emerging field of digital consciousness mapping. Researchers at MIT and Stanford are developing models that attempt to track patterns of awareness through massive data analysis, not just brain scans, but subtle shifts in speech, movement, and even micro-expressions. The hope is to create a mirror of consciousness, a living map that reflects the movements of mind in real time. Imagine gazing into such a mirror, watching thoughts ripple like waves across a screen. Would you see yourself as separate, or as part of a greater field of awareness? There are also experiments exploring collective intelligence through networked systems. When groups of people connect their inputs through AI-driven platforms, the resulting decisions are often more accurate than those made by experts alone. Some researchers, like Dr. Louis Rosenberg, call this swarm intelligence. It suggests that when consciousnesses merge, even digitally, a new kind of mind is born, more adaptive, more creative, perhaps even more awake. So pause and consider as technology expands, as quantum research deepens, as neuroscience maps the unseen, perhaps what we are truly discovering is not new at all. Perhaps it is the rediscovery of something ancient, something already within you. The quiet truth that your thoughts are not limited to your skull, but woven into the cosmos itself. What does it mean for the future? If your thoughts, your awareness, and your choices are already shaping realities in ways science is only beginning to glimpse, the implications stretch far beyond personal curiosity. They reach into how societies may evolve, how technology may develop, and how humanity may understand itself in the centuries ahead. Imagine for a moment a future where the connection between mind and matter is not a fringe idea, but accepted fact. Hospitals might treat illness not only with medicine and surgery, but with carefully guided thought practices proven to influence healing at the cellular level. Already, studies in psychoneuroimmunology suggest that belief and expectation can activate immune responses. Extend that research into the future, and you may find entire wings of medical centers devoted to consciousness-based therapies. You may walk into a clinic not only to receive pills, but to practice specific meditations that adjust your body's chemistry with the precision of pharmaceuticals. The future may also hold profound shifts in education. If thoughts and imagination genuinely influence reality, then the training of attention will become as important as literacy itself. Children may learn not only math and language, but how to direct their consciousness deliberately, visualizing outcomes, aligning intention with possibility. Classrooms might one day include consciousness labs, where students practice focusing awareness until quantum sensors register subtle shifts in probability. Imagine young people growing up not only with knowledge of the world, but with mastery over the invisible currents of mind. On a global scale, the implications for conflict and cooperation are staggering. If collective consciousness influences events, as the Global Consciousness Project suggests, then nations may begin organizing mass meditations or focus rituals before negotiations, elections, or peace summits. Instead of armies gathering, millions of citizens could gather in quiet unity, subtly shaping the probability field toward cooperation rather than violence. Wars might one day be fought not with weapons, but with competing visions of reality itself. Which vision would prevail? Perhaps the one with greater coherence, greater unity, greater love. Technology, too, will inevitably transform under these implications. Already, brain-computer interfaces blur the line between thought and action. In the future, such systems may become seamless. Devices might respond to your intention instantly, without the need for speech or gesture. Smart environments, homes, cities, entire infrastructures could become extensions of consciousness, adjusting themselves to collective moods and needs. If reality itself is responsive to thought, then technology will only amplify that responsiveness, creating environments that feel almost alive. But perhaps the most profound implication lies not in medicine, education, or technology, but in identity itself. If your thoughts create parallel universes, if every choice spawns a branching path, then who are you? Are you one being among many copies? Or are you the field itself, playing out infinite variations of the same story? The future may bring new philosophies, even new religions, built on this recognition that the self is not limited, that every person is a portal to countless worlds. Pause for a moment and imagine what this means for your own life. Decisions you once feared may feel lighter, knowing that in some version of reality, every path is taken. Regret may fade as you realize that nothing is truly lost, only lived differently. Hope may grow as you sense that possibilities never vanish but remain, waiting in other universes, echoing through the quantum fabric. And yet, these implications are not only comforting, they carry responsibility. If your thoughts shape realities, then every thought matters. Negativity may not simply cloud your mood, but ripple into worlds where darker outcomes unfold. Likewise, kindness and compassion may seed universes of healing and harmony. The future human may be defined not only by intelligence or technology, but by the maturity of thought itself. To think will be to create. To imagine will be to give birth to worlds. As you breathe softly now, drifting deeper, let yourself feel the weight and wonder of that. The future is not something that happens to you. It may be something that happens through you. Every dream tonight could be a seed for a universe tomorrow. And yet, these are only the first glimpses, the deeper implications. How societies might organize, how science might evolve, how the very boundaries of reality may shift, are still ahead. In the continuation, we will step further into the future, exploring what it might truly look like if humanity embraces the knowledge that thoughts create worlds. Let us drift deeper into the future, where the boundary between imagination and reality grows thinner with each passing decade. If consciousness shapes universes, then the future of humanity may be less about discovering external frontiers and more about awakening internal capacities. Consider the frontier of space exploration. Today, rockets carry satellites and probes beyond Earth, while private companies dream of colonizing Mars. Yet in a reality shaped by thought, the next great voyages may not rely solely on machines. Instead, the explorers may be trained in states of consciousness that allow them to navigate realities without leaving their bodies. Ancient yogis spoke of traveling in subtle realms, of moving through worlds beyond the senses. If science validates these experiences, future astronauts may be psychonauts, voyaging not only through galaxies, but through layers of parallel existence. A mission to Mars might be mirrored by missions into inner dimensions, each as real as the other. The implications extend into economics as well. If thoughts influence matter, wealth may no longer be measured purely in currency or resources, but in the quality of collective consciousness. Nations might compete not for land or oil, but for the coherence and creativity of their citizens' minds. Imagine a world where economic growth is linked directly to states of meditation, imagination, and emotional harmony. Productivity could be redefined as the generation of possibilities, branching futures created not in factories, but in the fertile soil of thought. Pause here and imagine what your own contribution might be in such a world. Every calm breath, every kind vision, every spark of creativity, all adding to the shared wealth of possibility. The future may also bring a revolution in law and justice. If realities branch with every decision, then guilt and innocence become fluid. Did the accused commit the act in this universe, but not in another? Does punishment serve justice, or does it only feed darker branches of possibility? Perhaps future legal systems will shift away from retribution and toward consciousness rehabilitation, practices that guide individuals toward thoughts and intentions that generate more harmonious worlds. Justice may become less about what happened in the past and more about what futures are being created in the present. And then there is the question of death. If parallel universes are real, death itself may lose its finality. Perhaps in one branch you die, while in another you continue. Perhaps consciousness slides effortlessly into the nearest surviving version, creating the subjective sense of immortality. This idea, sometimes called quantum immortality, is speculative yet strangely resonant with mystical teachings of rebirth and eternal presence. Imagine a future culture where funerals are not only moments of grief, but celebrations of transition, knowing that in some branch, the loved one lives on, and perhaps even remains aware of you. Of course, these implications come with challenges. If humanity embraces the power of thought to shape reality, then the stakes of imagination will rise. Nightmares may no longer be private. Fears could ripple into existence as readily as hopes. This is why the cultivation of emotional and spiritual maturity will be essential. The future human may need training, not only in science and technology, but in stillness, compassion, and wisdom. The survival of civilizations may depend less on weapons and more on the inner discipline of mind. Technology may aid in this training. Virtual reality and brain-computer interfaces could evolve into consciousness simulators, safe environments where individuals learn to stabilize thought, to direct intention, to create positively. These tools may be the classrooms of the future, preparing humanity for the responsibility of co-creating universes. As you drift deeper into stillness now, Allow yourself to sense what this means for your own journey. The future is not distant. It begins with the thoughts you hold in this moment, with the images passing through your mind as you listen. You are already participating in the creation of countless worlds. Every heartbeat, every breath, every dream is a doorway. And so, the implications of thought. Created universes are vast medicine that heals with intention, education that trains awareness, economies built on imagination, justice guided by compassion, space explored both outward and inward, death reframed as transition, and technology that amplifies consciousness. It is not science fiction. It is a logical unfolding if the mysteries we have traced are true. What then remains? Only to integrate, to bring these vast possibilities down into the ground of daily life, to ask how shall we live, knowing that our thoughts may be the architects of reality itself. That is the question awaiting us in the final chapter. As we close this exploration, we will gather the threads of ancient wisdom, scientific discovery, and personal mystery into a tapestry of meaning, a vision not only for the universe, but for the life you are living right now. There is one more thread to weave into the vision of tomorrow. If thoughts are seeds of universes, then the future of humanity may depend on learning how to plant them wisely. Already, research in mindfulness shows that even a few minutes of daily practice can shift mood, lower stress, and increase creativity. Now imagine these practices scaled across entire societies. A culture where meditation is as normal as brushing your teeth, where visualization is taught alongside mathematics, where communities gather not just to consume information, but to consciously generate possibilities. Such a future could feel very different from the world you know. Cities might hum with a softer rhythm, guided not by endless urgency, but by deliberate intention. Workplaces might prioritize states of flow and creativity rather than rigid output. Even global governance might shift, with leaders chosen not only for intellect, but for their ability to maintain coherent, compassionate consciousness. Pause here and sense what that might feel like. A future where the invisible architecture of thought is recognized as real, as tangible as buildings and laws. And in that world, every individual, including you tonight, becomes a co-architect of reality itself. As we arrive at this final chapter, notice the rhythm of your breathing steady, calm, unhurried. You have traveled through a long journey tonight, a journey across ancient wisdom, modern science, hidden evidence, and possible futures. You've listened to stories of sages and scientists, mystics and dreamers. And now, we gather all of it, weaving it into a single fabric, one that you can wrap around yourself like a blanket as you drift into sleep. Do you remember the question that began this exploration? What if your thoughts are creating parallel universes right now? In the beginning, it may have sounded abstract, like a clever puzzle. But now, after so many layers of insight, the question carries a different weight. It no longer floats as an idle curiosity. It pulses with possibility. The ancients hinted at it. Quantum mechanics whispered of it. Consciousness studies revealed fragments of it. Stories of ordinary people encountering extraordinary realities offered glimpses of it. Piece by piece, a pattern formed. Perhaps consciousness is not a passenger within the universe, but a co-creator of it. Imagine this for a moment, that every thought, every image, every quiet emotion does not vanish into nothingness, but instead ripples outward, shaping probabilities, biasing outcomes, nudging reality toward one version of itself rather than another. Not in a mechanical, instant way, but in a subtle, elegant dance. Just as a compass needle shifts the path of a traveler, your consciousness may shift the direction of the universe you inhabit. This understanding is both humbling and empowering. It humbles us because it reveals how vast reality truly is. far beyond the grasp of any single theory. And it empowers us because it suggests that our lives matter in ways we never imagined. Each breath, each choice, each dream might echo through universes. Think back to the teachings of ancient traditions. The Vedic sages spoke of Maya, the idea that the world is a kind of cosmic illusion, a dream woven by consciousness. Taoist philosophers described the Tao, the underlying flow of reality that shifts with intention and harmony. Buddhist texts spoke of countless realms coexisting, linked by mind. Indigenous peoples told of dream time, where visions were as real as waking life. And now picture the laboratories of the modern world. Scientists watching particles behave differently when observed. Researchers mapping how thoughts alter brain chemistry, how intention influences biology. The language is different, the tools are modern, yet the essence is strangely aligned. Both streams suggest that consciousness shapes experience. Integration means no longer seeing these voices as separate. It means hearing them as parts of a greater symphony. Science and spirit, myth and measurement, all pointing toward the same horizon. So what does this mean for your own daily life? Integration becomes practice. Each morning you rise into a universe. But which one? Perhaps your first thought helps to decide. If you wake with dread, you may walk into a world where obstacles stand taller. If you wake with gratitude, you may step into a world where opportunities seem brighter. The day itself may not change, but the universe you tune into does. Imagine beginning tomorrow with a quiet ritual. Before you move, before the noise of the day enters, you pause. You picture the kind of day you wish to live, not in every detail, but in feeling peaceful, creative, connected. And then you carry that tone like a compass. Small choices align with it. Conversations bend toward it. And slowly, you realize you have walked into a parallel universe of your own making. And it does not stop with the individual. Integration expands into the collective. If one mind can shift probabilities, what can many minds do together? History already offers clues, movements that began with a vision of freedom, of equality, of peace, reshaped entire societies. Was it only politics and economics? Or was it also consciousness itself, multiplied across millions, creating a tipping point in reality? When we integrate this insight, we recognize that humanity is not helpless in the face of chaos. Together, we may be choosing universes even now. Perhaps the conflicts and crises of today are not inevitable. Perhaps they are one version among many. And if enough minds shift, another version may emerge, one with greater balance, wisdom, and compassion. Yet integration also brings comfort, for it tells us we do not need to control everything. Thoughts are powerful, yes, but not tyrannical. One anxious idea will not collapse your world. One fleeting worry will not doom your path. Reality seems to respond more to patterns, to the deeper currents of your mind. What you return to again and again becomes your compass. So let that compass lean gently toward love, toward peace, toward wonder. Now, let us slow even more, moving from the intellectual into the experiential. Integration is not only about thinking, it is about resting in the mystery. It is about allowing the truth to seep into your body, your breath, your dreams. Picture yourself at the threshold of infinite doors. Each one glows faintly, waiting. Behind one door is the version of tomorrow where joy shines brighter. Behind another, the version where challenges teach you wisdom. Behind another still, unimaginable adventures await. But here's the secret: you are not separate from these doors. You are not only the traveler. You are the threshold itself. The doors open through you. Let this realization soften your heart. You do not need to chase every possibility. You do not need to fear missing out. You are already woven into the fabric of infinite universes. Each breath, each dream carries you deeper into that truth. So, as you listen now, Allow the words to become less like information and more like music. Notice the spaces between sentences. Notice how each pause invites you to relax more deeply. Notice how the rhythm slows, inviting your body to drift. This is integration too, not just of ideas, but of state, from waking to dreaming, from curiosity to peace, from seeking to resting. And in this rest, love arises, love for the mystery itself, love for the countless versions of you walking different paths, love for the scientists and sages who tried to name the unnameable, love for this moment, here and now, where you are safe, breathing, listening, drifting. As you drift, know this: you are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos, dreaming itself in countless variations. You are the wave and the ocean, the door and the traveler, the thought and the universe it creates. And so, integration concludes with a simple invitation: breathe. Let the breath carry you into sleep. Let the breath remind you that you are part of something infinite. Let the breath anchor you in peace. The mystery continues. The universes continue, and you are held within them all. Good night, good dreaming, and may your thoughts carry you into the most beautiful of worlds.